check. Breaker 19. Breaker 19. Check baby 1 2 3. Don't be cutting out my checks either, Ryan. I've been noticing that. The excluded middle, Ryan and Ryan, coming at you from the back shack.
You've been really working on that, dude.
Yeah, man, it's getting better. Getting better, as we all are, man. Well, at least I am, you are.
Oh, perfect.
I'm getting better every day in every way.
My system's preparing itself.
Probably should have done that.
Repairing itself.
As Ryan's trying to do his laptop to repair itself. Hey, lucky for me, I don't do notes.
I don't have any notes for tonight.
Oh, no, I was just teasing, man. Yeah, we're kind of winging it tonight. And we're getting on early. We're getting on early again. So it might be a double episode week. Lucky for the audience.
Dude, what if we get 3 in?
Oh, man. Life-changing. What's really going on out there? Yeah.
Lots of stuff.
Yeah, for sure, man. But
look, this time, welcome to your Chromebook.
Oh, man, I keep hitting that table, man. We got to do something here.
Perfect.
You in? All right, man.
This is why I don't like or trust computers.
For sure. Well, I can kick us on while we're waiting for that to repair at least.
I don't know what it's going to do. Nothing.
All right. Well, tonight's topic we're getting on here is the topic of endurance. Endurance. Right. Endurance. Man, that sounds tough when I say that. And for the audience out there, this came from Ryan. He wanted to talk about this after I completed a race of endurance just on running. I ran on Saturday, a 12-hour race. Ran for 12 hours straight. Started at 6 in the morning. Ended at 6 p.m. on Saturday morning this started. And went in and just grinded it out, man. And knocked out what it came out to be was 56 miles.
Yeah.
56 miles. And is what we did.
From a fat kid, that's like amazing. That's like literally you ran to Wichita.
Yeah.
You know, for us, where we're at would be from our little town to the big city.
That's exactly what what
like
happened.
On the other side of the big city.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened.
So what was on my mind to do this and why I thought now would be a great time is because your endurance was tested.
Oh, it's truly tested. Yeah, it was tested for sure.
Yeah. And the fortitude it takes to do that. Now, I mean, I get it. Like you call yourself an endurance runner, which to me means that you can easily run a marathon.
I don't know that there's anything easy about it.
What's a marathon? 36 miles?
26.2.
26.2. You ran twice that.
Yeah.
So you run 50 miles regularly.
Not at one time. You know what I mean? I wouldn't call it regularly. I don't know what's regularly though. You know what I mean? Like I've ran
once a month.
I mean, I run that much throughout the weeks and stuff.
I guess
like
it's
that.
not 50 miles. 50K.
Yeah, 50K.
My bad.
Yeah,
50Ks.
50K. Yeah,
and that's
that would be
33 something.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the math here. 31, 32 miles.
That's a long damn
I think
ways.
what they call 50Ks. Yeah, I mean, they're tough. I would say anything. I mean, running's tough, period. I mean, there's a reason why.
Yeah, it is. I don't do it. Yeah. I should.
There's a reason why when in sports and things of that nature, when you get in trouble or whatnot, they make you run.
Yeah.
Running sucks.
No, I totally get it.
Out there. Running does suck.
Yeah.
And, there's a reason why it's used for punishment, and I opt to do it to myself.
Yeah.
And there comes a point where you just have to I always tell people, that want to get off, start running, and kind of get into that world. I mean, it comes with a whole nother type of energy for sure.
Right.
That comes with that running. I mean, it is. You'll have endorphins firing. I mean, it gets pretty intense. But it's a matter of just getting past that first stage, and then maybe even past that second stage. But if you can get past that, man, it's off to the races.
No, I get
and you'll start enjoying it and getting a lot more of that feel for it. But it's just a matter of getting to that point. That makes it very tough.
So you almost have to put yourself through it.
Well, yeah,
grow your endurance.
Exactly. Like I was going to say, with anything with endurance, if the words endurance is in there, yeah, you're going to have to put yourself through some stuff, man. Anything with endurance, I wouldn't say comes easy. comes with a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, some hurt, you know what I mean? And you get through it. And that would be endurance. And and getting to that, we were talking this morning when Ryan was wanting to get to it, and you had told me that the definition of endurance was totally different than what you thought it would be. I was kind of curious on that.
Well, it sucks because now that my computer won't load, and I'd have to go to my phone that's recording this to reset a bunch of stuff.
Man.
And I don't even want to. I still want to talk about this while we're on here, and we can have a part 2 possibly.
Okay. Yeah.
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 This is why we're constantly worried to need a tech person to do this.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're winging it a little bit.
Well, so when I got on and looked up the definition, I would say that I was partially right with what my idea was. But one of the definitions that I looked at really implied that you purposefully put yourself through suffering and trials to grow your endurance.
Ooh.
That you yourself purposely
Put yourself.
And so for me to look at it from the aspect of you running, I'm like, absolutely. But when I started thinking it through this biblical aspect of it, I see in myself that I was lacking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I can see it in others, but it's not about that.
Right.
You know what I mean? My job's not to call them out. My job's to lift them up. Right. So in myself, when I think of that, I see lots and lots of missed opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, I totally get that, because are you purposely putting yourself there? And if you're looking through a biblical lens, I mean, if you look at throughout time, throughout Scripture, a lot of those individuals did put themselves in some very tough situations. Purposely.
Absolutely, they did.
And then to go on my definition that I looked up after you said that, to me, I was like, well, I wonder what, I've never looked up the definition of endurance. So I just looked it up, and the first one that popped up was Oxford from the Oxford Dictionary. And it's the fact or power of enduring an unpleasant or difficult process or situation without giving way.
Without giving way.
Yeah, without giving way.
Stand your ground.
Stand your ground, hold ground, man.
Man.
Yeah.
There are absolutely times, especially right now with the job I'm doing, where I just totally feel up against a wall. And it's not putting up with people's crap or, filling their feelings with them, or whether I choose to or not. Like, those are things. And I say sometimes empathy is a curse. You know what I mean? It literally is a gift because it helps you help people. But
yeah,
there's just some times where it's like, well, I don't have the endurance to go through it. It's taxing. It's tiresome, mentally, physically, all those things. And off the top of my head, I mean, I can't quote them, but I can think numerous times, especially in the New Testament, where the Bible talks about endurance.
Yeah.
To finish the race well, and sometimes even implies that if you don't have endurance, you're running the race for nothing.
Man, yeah, that's pretty tough, because then you're, I would say, from that definition, then you're giving way to it. You know what I mean? You're giving in to it, and you're letting it beat you.
And then directly, I go to, there again, I mean, my Bible knowledge is minimal. I can't remember things like I used to be able to. But in Revelation, where it's talking to the church, I think in Laodicea, where he says, "You're neither cold nor hot. I wish you were one or the other. But basically, since you're not, I'm going to spit you out."
Ooh.
And they weren't enduring till the end, were they?
No, they weren't. Yeah, they weren't. And then I think it's, yeah. And then, what came to my mind too, when you were posing this to me, I think that was this morning or something like that. My thought was too, when you go to enduring, are you enduring with joy? With that constant state of joy, you know what I mean? Anything that's thrown at you, are you still finding the joy in it?
Right.
Is your focus still on point? Are you still moving with purpose? And you know what I mean? And not giving way. So, you know what I mean? Are you handling that endurance? Are you enduring?
Let's talk about your race a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I mean, as far as your build up to the race, I mean, you're excited to go. From my perception, on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you, to me, were seemingly very ready to take that on.
Yeah, I would say I was ready, excited to get there. Yeah, I mean, to a point, and this goes back to other episodes too. Like words matter. You know what I mean? Words matter, and you're always going to have in that backside of your mind that just that inner self-talk. You know what I mean? Sometimes trying to come out, and I just don't let that. I just don't let that phase me.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I was definitely nervous. I mean. Thinking of race morning, you know what I mean? I wake up and I'm trying to pump myself up the night before. Nerves are coming at you. I mean, you're prepping for a 12-hour race. You know what I mean? I try not to rely too much on other people, you know what I mean, as far as on aids and things like that, because I don't know exactly what's going to be there at those aid stations or what's going on. So I try to fully prep for
Hot soda.
myself. Yeah, see, exactly. So you try to prep for yourself, you know what I mean? So the night before, and I really try not to think about it much. I just stay focused on, my training, what I'm doing. I try to, intake calories. I try to intake my water. I increase my water intake so I'm fully hydrated.
Right.
And then as that race day comes or, the day before, and then I start actually like prepping my bag. I go to the store, man, and start buying stuff. You know what I mean? I'm getting watermelon. I'm getting, I'm getting, my gels. I'm getting
Your little packs of hydrate deals.
Yeah, I'm getting.
You're stocking up.
Yeah, I'm stocking up.
Okay, so let's stop there for a second.
You know what I mean?
You know when the race is going to come.
Yes.
Okay. So now let's apply this to our walk of endurance, scripturally speaking, biblically speaking, Christian life. We don't know exactly when things are going to happen, so we need to always be prepared.
And that's what I was going to say too, because check this out. On this race that I did on Saturday, I wasn't even planning on doing this race. I was actually planning on doing another race, which was a 12-hour race, but it was only going to run 1 mile every 20 minutes.
Right.
And then after they run 1 mile every 20 minutes for 12 hours. On the last mile, whoever runs the fastest mile wins.
Right.
So I would have probably topped out around 36 miles. Would I have made it? Yes, I would have made it. I'll tell you that. But if and that's what I'd game plan for.
Right.
And we went to sign up for that race because waited too long to sign up, obviously. And I just had a death in the family as well, so I was kind of waiting for that to play out to see when that funeral was going to be. And went to sign up for the race and sold out. Yeah. So then it was all like, what race we're going to do. And then there was a 6:12:24, and was like, let's do the 12-hour race because I had the funeral on Friday, so the 24 was off, and so Saturday morning, boom, I'm doing a 12-hour run. We're doing a 12-hour run.
No, not we.
Yeah, not right.
Let's get that clear.
Yeah, my other buddy. But
the runner.
So we were like, boom, let's do the 12-hour race, and so I technically wasn't ready for that, but you know what I mean. But like exactly because. Swing it back to life.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just an endurance race, a 12-hour endurance race. We are in this moment right now. I don't know if you all know this or not, but we are in the ultimate endurance race of all times.
Whether you're a believer or not.
Yeah, whether you're a believer or not, we're in the ultimate endurance race, and that is the race of life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what are you doing in the greatest endurance race of all time? What are you doing right now to stay prepared?
Right.
You know what I mean? To stay ready. You know what I mean? What are you doing? Like, and if you take that back to like a running aspect of race, well, you know what I mean? I got my gear out there, on those loops, it was a 2.1 mile loop every time. Well, every 2.1 mile loop, I know I got to intake some calories.
Right.
I know I got to, take in my sodium. You know what I mean? I know if I got a couple minutes or whatever, a minute, it wasn't much time.
You have a checklist.
Yeah, you got a checklist. And as you're running it, your body kind of starts speaking to you and tells you what you need. You know what I mean? Because there for a while, I started cramping up in the quads. So I'm all like, well, I didn't take a salt pill that lap. So boom, I know I need a sodium pill to keep this quad moving, because as soon as I popped a pill, that cramp would go away. So then every 2 miles, boom, I'm throwing a salt pill in, and that kept that going. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm throwing in, my powder in my water. And then sometimes I just need straight water. It just goes, you start making that mental list. Yeah. On race, you try to prep before, but things start happening, so you got to stay ready. And that can go back to life. You know what I mean? As you're racing this ultimate endurance race of life, what's speaking to you? You know what I mean? What's your body telling you? What's the spirit telling you? What things are being guided and directed towards you that you're either not doing
Right.
if you're slipping, or are you doing and then getting better?
Well, and also too, it applies same as you. Wasn't your first race, right?
No,
You've been through it enough times that you have a history to know my body feels a type of way. This is what I need to do.
Right.
And so, and it would directly apply to how we do the Great Commission or how we go out and preach the gospel message. And it has really, honestly, less to do for me right now as far as what I was taught in my youth and early 20s and then again in my 30s as to what the Holy Spirit has revealed to me for being willing to open up and let Him provide the endurance instead of me doing it on my own. and I think it applies to your race. I mean, we'll talk about it in a minute. So when I talked to Keeler after the race was over, and I mean, you could just tell you'd been taxed.
Yeah.
You were wore down.
Man. Yeah, you want to speak about it afterwards, man.
Well,
yeah.
what I really want to do is talk about during the race.
Okay.
And so, if you haven't noticed, Keeler's always smiling. and so he sent some pictures today, and
Hey, I was, just so you know, before we get to that picture, I was smiling a lot during that race. Hey, there was this time, dude, because I tried to stay, in that positive mindset, you know what I mean? And
Right.
you can speak that into life, the all ultimate things. Sorry, I'm getting crazy here, but and I try to stay in that positive mindset, right? So there's even after the race was done, this guy comes up to me and he's like, dude, you were the guy that was out there swimming, because there was this dude. It was a brutal. Dude, okay, well, at first it wasn't that brutal of an uphill. It was on that last.
right,
Maybe last, I don't know, half mile or so of that loop. There's just this uphill that, it was pretty good gradual uphill. And it was like, at first it wasn't that bad. Dude, by mile probably 15, dude, that hill was getting to you. And it was like you knew that hill was coming, right?
Yeah.
Every time. I mean, it's the same loop every time. So you know that hill's coming every single time. And, dude, it was starting to defeat me, man. Like, I could feel it. Like, you know what I mean? I could feel it messing with my endurance. Like, I started getting in my head a little bit. So, dude, I think at mile 25, probably 30, somewhere in there. Hey, man, I started swimming that thing. Like, you should have seen me out there. I'm like this, going up this hill, just out there running, swimming up this hill. And that guy noticed it, you know what I mean, the race director. And he was like, man, you're the guy that was out there swimming up that hill. I was like, sure was, man.
I love that. I love that analogy that you're talking about. So in this particular picture, I commented back to him. He texted to me, and Ryan said, he's like, I think I was struggling there. And I said it was odd to not see you smiling, because of the other like 7 pictures you're smiling, especially like you were running with someone else and you could see that you guys were talking back and forth. And the one person didn't have such a big smile, and you're just beaming.
Yeah.
And it was, I
was running with Charles. That was Charles. Yeah.
And so I have to think in my head, I wasn't there obviously. And it's not, just when I think through the picture speaks 1,000 words, I'm like, that is absolutely you trying to share what you have inside you with someone else, because you want to be competitive. You don't want to see anybody fail. So the one picture of him that was a single picture, and he was like, that he probably possibly was struggling. To me, when I saw that, it looked like 110% determination in your face.
Yeah. It was like, I'm going to stay the course.
Yeah.
No matter what.
As you're processing through. And there again, I mean, even at, I'd be praying for the guys that are running, Ryan and our good friend, Chase, periodically through the day. I was at work, and at 4:00, it wasn't even that I was consciously thinking about it. I just recognized the time because I happened to look, but I felt that I should pray right then. And then at 4:17, I get a text back, felt that.
I sure did, too.
Right.
I was waiting for the moment where it really overtook me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there was moments throughout that race where I felt a little different, felt lifted.
Yeah.
But, dude, at that 4 p.m. mark, like, at that 4:17-ish, when I text that to you, hey man, I got lit up. I can't remember what place I was in, but I was, I held sixth pretty good, and then took fifth, and then I got fourth. You know what I mean? But I'm gunning. I've yet to place in a race, so I was really wanting to place. And dude, something came over me at that moment, man. Like it was intense. And dude, I just picked it up. I think third place at that time was a good probably 2 miles, if not more, ahead of me. Yeah. And then I just, I started grinding. And I mean, we'd have been probably at mile, 48, 50, somewhere in there.
Right.
So
to me, when I think of that, one, you had the determination to finish the race well.
Yeah.
You had goals in mind. You had actually multiple goals in mind. Mean, personal best, and for athletes, you understand that. I'm very competitive. I totally get it, and I know that the other side of that, when you hate to use the word lose, but because you're really running against yourself more than anybody else in this aspect.
Yeah.
Is really self-defeating feeling. And so when that happens, our benefit is we have somewhere to go with it. You know what I mean? And so it sounds silly in a way, and even me in hindsight, I'm literally praying for this dude to finish this race well.
Yeah.
And I hate running.
Oh, for sure.
But it's interesting that on Sunday at church, we literally talked about what we asked God for. You know what I'm saying? And how that plays out in our normal, everyday Christian life.
Yeah.
And so the analogy that our preacher gave was Steelers are 3rd and 10, 28-yard line. God, I pray that they make the first down or a touchdown, realizing that there's a whole bunch of people praying that the other team stops them. Which prayer is God going to answer? Does he even care?
Yeah, I don't know that he... Yeah.
So how do you get to this words matter, right?
Right, for sure they do.
All means all. Cast all your anxiety on him.
Yeah.
And it sounds so silly, but now, here's the part that might be a little convicting is God wants to hear our honest prayers. Now, honestly, I've prayed that before. I don't watch as much football as I used to. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. I love Brett Favre. I think he's one of the toughest quarterbacks to ever exist in the modern era. Okay? Where he played, the injuries he endured, he kept playing. He never stopped. He endured.
Yeah.
Till the end. He was old when he
dude,
quit.
A heck of an athlete.
Set lots of records,
Hall of Famer,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well-deserved Hall of Famer. But I remember, praying that prayer. Oh, let him go to the Super Bowl. Just let him go to the Super Bowl. Please, God, let him go, I'm sick of all these people talking crap to me about the Green Bay Pack. No. And I think about that, but in the scheme of things, and this is kind of getting off subject of endurances, God wants to hear our honest prayers to know our heart.
Yeah.
Our conversations with God absolutely matter.
Kind of check the heart.
Well, it does, because he's going to provide an answer through one form or another.
Yeah.
Now, when Green Bay did go to the Super Bowl and win, was it my prayer was answered? Probably not. You know what I mean?
Maybe Brett Favre's was answered. I don't know.
Could have been. He probably got a big bonus. So I don't even know that Brett Favre's a believer, to be quite truthful. I'd hope that he is. But and I'm still just struck by that definition that I read this morning of that from this biblical aspect of the definition, we purposely put ourselves into situations, trials, and tests to grow our endurance, to make us stronger, to be able to fight the next battle. And I see it play out at work all the time. There's some guys that are easy to reach with a gospel message, and there's others that are hard-nosed. They don't want to hear it, and it takes me days to even get them to listen.
Yeah. Just a matter of planting seeds.
Through the scheme of it, you got him first try.
Oh, no, I'm not going to kill him.
No, I knew you weren't. I thought you were going to shuffle him over to the light. Hopefully he lands on the camera. So, it would be fair to say endurance is difficult to achieve, to grow.
Oh, for sure. I would say very much so. Because, if we take it back to that standpoint of running, we were kind of discussing there, I didn't do my first ultra. I know I did a couple marathons last year, and then was like, man, we're gonna do an ultra marathon, and I was planning on just doing like a 50K would be the next up from a marathon,
Yeah.
and then the race that we were looking at back in early April was all sold out because we waited too long. And the only one they had available was a 50-miler race. And
Is that your first 50 miler?
yeah, I've never ran. My furthest distance before that was 26 point, like a little over a marathon, 26 point something, 20, a little over 26.2.
And an ultra marathon's 50K.
Yeah, that's usually, well, anything more than, but yeah, they usually typically start at 50K.
Yeah.
And so the only one available was a 50-miler. And my buddy Chase, he's all like, he's like, well, if that isn't a sign, I don't know what is. We're doing the 50-miler, right? And dude, you talk about a gut check, man. I immediately felt like throwing up.
Yeah.
like, because I couldn't even fathom that, you know what I mean? And not to mention, that it was a trail race, had water crossings. I mean,
Is that the one in Canopolis?
yeah, it was the Rockin' K is what they call that. The Rockin' K 50-miler, man. Hey, dude, that race is intense, man. I'm talking that was so tough. And I don't think I was quite prepared for that
Well,
race.
the good thing about your first 50 miler?
What's that?
It's your personal best.
Yeah, and what's crazy is I even and we did complete that. We did complete that. Yeah. And dude, if that was that took everything that I had in me at that point to get through that race. Like, it was brutal. And check this out: the guy that like the director of that race, the organizer of that race, he happened to be at that race I was at.
Nice.
On this one we just ran.
I like it.
And he did remember us too, man.
Oh,
and
sure.
And I think Chase spoke with him. I spoke with him at the very end, but I think Chase had some conversations with him during the race. And I was grinding out too much. Chase was way ahead of me, so I was grinding out just trying to keep up with the guy.
Half your age.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, man. And speaking of that, yeah. Anyway, so I go, and this guy, I guess he had said he didn't even think we was going to finish it. That Rockin' K.
The one at Canopolis?
Yeah, he was like, when I seen you guys, I was like, there's no way these guys are finishing this race.
It's funny because the pictures that they posted, you both look terrible happy. And the ones of you like coming through your second loop, you guys didn't look so happy on Facebook. You looked happy when you finished.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's completely breaking you off. You know what I mean? You're going through some tough stuff, but we endured, you know what I mean? We endured. We purposely put ourselves through probably one of the hardest things I had experienced ever at that time, for sure. And and stayed the course, man. Yeah. I didn't let anything get in the way. You know what I mean? There was times there when you have to make cutoffs. You know what I mean? And we were getting close to those cutoffs, and we didn't know if we'd make it. And Chase just looked at me. He's like, "Hey, man, we're knocking this out. We're holding this pace. Yeah. Let's go." And it's just like, oh my gosh.
That brings up a great point too. For you, most of the races you do, Chase runs with you.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, there's times where he's ahead or you're ahead, different things. But there's a lot of times where you guys are, especially on the longer endurance races, for the majority of the race, you guys kind of stick together and motivate each other, or sometimes the negative energy does creep in. We talked about it when you guys were racing down in southeast Kansas, that it was just tough, and there was a lot of negativity. Now, where it started from doesn't matter. It
just happens.
So in our endurance race, scripturally speaking, biblically speaking, we aren't ever alone.
No, never alone.
Now, there are things that would make us feel alone.
Yeah. I'm actually reading this book. I'm going to cue this book I'm reading now. I'm reading a book, and it talks about going into like some deep meditations and things of that sort. And this gentleman even wrote about it. It just screams God at you. It cracks me up. These people miss it, but
it depends on what eyes are on the book.
Yeah, but he talks about going into complete nothingness. You know what I mean? And has been there in his meditations and goes into this complete nothingness. And then he says, when you find yourself in this complete nothingness, you will then find out that you're not alone.
Right.
That you're never truly alone. That even in complete, utter nothingness, you're still not alone.
Right.
And that dude, that was pretty big when I came across that in that book. I was like, wow. So yeah, you're never truly alone. Never truly alone.
It's perception.
Mm-hmm.
It really comes down to that.
Yeah.
I think it's hard. to grasp sometimes, because we're really visually stimulated minded people. And so, I mean, if you look at things, the first thing usually is you see something, and then you tune in and you might listen. And then if you're close enough, you might smell it. And if it's something that's edible, you might put it in your mouth. So, if you think of a plate of food, if you see it on Facebook, you're like, dang, that looks good, right? You can't actually smell it, taste it, or any of these things, but you're visually stimulated by it, right? And all of a sudden now you're kind of hungry. Your mouth starts watering. There's different things that happen. I don't know what the word would be. And your brain starts firing off for those things. You can have that same experience with prayer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things that I struggle with, and this is not really, I guess it would help grow endurance, but it's really about, I had to endure to a point to be able to do this, is when I pray, if I'm praying for somebody away from me, I try to put myself in that place.
Yeah.
So, our friend in India, occasionally I try to remember to pray for him.
Yeah.
And I've never been to India, but I've seen lots of videos on it. I see lots of videos from him, so I can visualize myself there. And it's very strange that I recognize smells that I've never smelled before. Well, I smelled Indian food, but that's usually not the smell I get. And I can visually feel, from visually seeing, I can almost feel what I see. So, depending on what he would post, asking prayer for, mostly for the Holy Spirit to be revealed to people that are really struggling with some really, really dark satanic crap. That's the people he's reaching out to.
Yeah, yeah.
I can almost feel that attack. Now, does that in turn mean I'm being attacked? Quite highly likely it does.
I was going to say probably so, man.
You know what I mean? That's that's a fickle road to go down, right? Spirituality and what we can sense, see, feel.
So you would be putting yourself in some tough situations right
absolutely.
There, purposely doing so.
When I first started praying that way, I definitely wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
And it put me in a spot where I didn't really want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I reached out to people. I reached out to you about it a little bit, kind of, because your endurance and experience with it is different than mine.
Right.
And, I reached out to Trisha, JVB, those kind of people that I trust wholeheartedly. And I think your exact words were, what are you waiting for? If I remember correctly. Why? Or maybe, no, it was why.
I don't think it was that.
I think it was why wait.
Yeah.
I think it was why wait.
So.
And then he explained some situations that you'd done, put purposely to endure. And maybe I think it was JVB. Now that's it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think
why,
what I said.
Why wait, or what are you waiting for?
I just know, like, if you're fearing it, you know what I mean. Anything that I find that I'm fearing or being scared, you know what I mean. We're not supposed to have that. I mean, I guess you should have that, but you shouldn't let that beat you.
No.
You know what I mean? Because we have some, we aren't to fear, man.
Right. So let's backtrack again, back to the race. So in the scheme of things, you finished the race well. Yes. I would say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
I think if I remember,
this most current one.
Yeah, the one you just finished on Saturday.
Oh yeah.
Furthest you've ran in a race.
Shoot, man, a third place finisher. In fact,
third place finisher out of quite a few people. And like I told him, I said, well, if there's only 5 people racing, then third's not that great. But he's like, well, there's probably 70. I was like, that's pretty good then.
I'm not sure the exact numbers. They haven't posted it yet, so
it's easy to get in the top 10 when 8 people race.
I don't even know about that.
You could only be in the top 10.
I know, man. But you could quit.
You could.
You could get a DNF, did not finish.
Then you wouldn't be on there.
So I wouldn't say it's if there's only 10 in an endurance race like that,
you have to finish.
I would say it's still not easy to get top 10 because you could get a DNF, which that's a lot of miles, man. It's a lot of time you got to go.
Right. So let's tie that to what we look at in the Bible and the idea of how many times it talks about endurance, how many times it uses allegory, compares it to a race, to training for a race, to all those things. a
And
physical thing to a spiritual thing. It's highly likely that if you're not pressing into God, it's going to be very difficult to endure to the end, which is practice. Let's say that your prayer is practice, you're going to church is practice, you're reading the Bible is practice.
Yeah,
community. All these things.
I mean, you could even go into
fellowship,
practice,
communion,
brotherhood,
anything.
Yeah.
And so, if you're not practicing well, you're not going to endure well.
Right.
And I hate to use the words a lot or most or all, whatever, because they're big words. But I pay attention to everything when I'm around.
Yeah. I mean, I would even say like the words you're speaking, you know what I mean? Your thought patterns, things of that nature.
Right.
I mean, you could go into some deep conversations.
Well,
there.
you could, but I take notice of things around me.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of times people that put on the act of enduring well, but they're not even really in the race. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because they wouldn't be putting themselves in any tough situations.
Right.
They're in that constant comfort zone.
Right. And the things that
they're dangerous place to be.
The things that they're speaking out about that they're enduring through have zero to do with biblical endurance. I had a tough day at work.
Good.
So, I don't know, a year ago I heard a sermon at our favorite place from our favorite preacher, and he said, you don't rest to work, you work to rest. I had it backwards forever. I was like, I need to rest so I can be ready for work. Now I need to work so I can be ready for rest.
Yeah, you got to stay in action, man.
And that really...
That's pretty good. I like that.
And of course, I love the way God reveals himself through things.
Yeah.
You know, I've been hung up on this endurance thing since Sunday morning. It was very difficult for me to pay attention to church even. I was still so clued into it. And we were talking about David, who has this great endurance up until he was made king.
Yeah.
And then really faltered, almost like being a king went to his head. So we're talking about Bathsheba. And it's like 1 Samuel 11 or 12, somewhere in there. And it's when all these people are going to war and David stays behind. He wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. He wasn't putting himself out there to do kingly things. He stayed behind when everybody else went to war, and he should have been at the front. That's what the king was supposed to do, lead the charge, right?
Right.
And here we got this guy that killed Goliath. You know? Yeah. Anyways... And because he was unwilling to go do those things, he got caught up in sin. Right? He's standing out there and he sees Bathsheba taking a bath, and then he even plays it off like, "Who is that beautiful woman?" and the reply from one of his servants is, "Well, is that not Bathsheba?" Because the servant knew that David knew who it was, because Uriah was one of his highest regarded leaders of these armies.
Yeah, so he was just sitting back. He was just sitting back in the comfort zone, getting nice and comfortable. Everybody was gone, fighting wars.
He was doing what bad kings would do,
That's
right?
what I'm saying. Yeah, he just sitting back, being comfortable, letting everyone else do the work, and caught himself slipping.
Well, and he kept slipping for quite a while,
right.
A minimum of 9 months, because he sends Uriah out to the front lines to be. Well, first he tries to get Uriah to go sleep with his wife, so he could play it off like it wasn't his, you know.
Yeah.
And Uriah refused because he was so loyal to the king and the kingdom. Right? So he's like slept on the steps there for a while, and then David got him drunk, and he still wouldn't go be with his wife because he had a duty to be with his soldiers, blah, 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 blah. So David edits it later and sends him out to the front lines where he knows he'll be killed. And then he tries to come in like the good guy and takes Bathsheba as one of his wives to raise Uriah's kid, right? And then along comes Nathan the prophet, and he tells this allegory. He's like, a rich man and a poor man. The poor man has one lamb. It's his prize lamb, it's his best friend. He treats it very well. And the rich man has many lambs, but the rich man wants to throw a party, and instead of killing one of his lambs, he slaughters the poor man's lamb. Feeds all his friends. And Nathan says, what should happen? Well, the rich man should be put to death. And Nathan says, you're the rich man. That's hardcore, right? You ever have that Holy Spirit conviction come out on you? I did on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
You know, it wasn't about endurance. It was about what we were talking about. And as soon as we got into that parable, I was just like, dang. We have to finish well. We don't know when or where or what the finish line looks like because we can't predict the future.
Yeah.
But we can influence our future.
Yeah, that's what I would go to is like, you know what I mean? How are you doing in this endurance race of life? You know what I mean? Are you
how do you size that up?
Are you putting yourself into uncomfortable situations? Are you moving about accordingly? You know what I mean? Are you staying in a joyful state, in a blissful state? Do you have grief in your life? You know what I mean? Are you loving so much that you're feeling some grief? You know what I mean? And in that grief, are you allowing that grief to draw you closer to God? Or are you allowing that grief to draw you closer to a bottle? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? What are you doing in those times? You know what I mean? When you're presented, you know,
are you just simply checking out?
Yeah,
because you don't want to do it anymore.
I mean, you could take that as deep as you want. You know what I mean? There's levels to everything.
On both sides, you can.
And there's levels to endurance, man. There's levels to that. You know what I mean? How well are you taking care of this temple that you've been provided with? You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? And then, you know, I heard a guy talking today, man. It drives me crazy. Like, and you know, this is something I've heard since I was in, you know, at an early age. You know what I mean? Getting older sucks. I hear that. You know, getting older sucks. And
what sucks is when you get old too soon because you put your body through hell.
I don't, you know, and then what's that do? Well, then I hear that too. People say that to me. They're like, "Oh man, you're not going to be able to walk. You're going to be in wheelchairs, and you know what I mean. Your knees are going to go out on you. You're going to do this. You know what I mean. You're doing too much, and you know what I mean." And I'm like,
Good.
and then I sit there and thinking about it, and then on the way over here, especially when I heard that dude say, you know, getting older sucks, I start thinking about that, and I'm all like, you know, I've heard that since, you know, wait till you're 30. When you're 30, everything's going to start falling apart. You know what I mean? And then I get to 30. You know what I mean? And then when you're going to get to 40, man, it's going to get even worse. It's going to suck. You know what I mean? And then
and you're past 40.
Yeah, dude.
You just ran 56 miles.
And I would say, I mean, you know, I'm probably in some of the best shape I've ever been in my life, you know, especially speaking on endurance, man, as far as on the physical side of things, spiritual side. I would say I'm feeling pretty dang good, man, and I'm doing pretty good, and I'm past 40 years old.
I love that you're just bumping up right
so it's like, and you know what I mean? And then it's just constantly, you know, what have you been doing? You know what I mean? It goes back to that, like, if you're sitting there saying older sucks, then I would check your mind, man, or check where you're at, because you're going to have some issues, man. Things are going to creak a little bit. You're going to have some soreness. I mean, what do you think? You just bounce right back from things? No, man, you're getting older. It's going to start taking its effect. But, you know what I mean? What are you going to do? Are you letting those creaks and those little cramps stop you?
Right.
You know what I mean? And then, you know, I love that. Like today, some guy told me today, he's like, man, you're going to be in a wheelchair, you know, if you keep this up. And I'm like, man, I was just like, you know, I was like, fine, I would like to see how many people that run are in wheelchairs compared to how many people that don't run are in wheelchairs. You know what I mean?
You're constantly, every time you race, you're like, man, there's a 72-year-old woman that just did
check this
marathon.
So I'm trying, during that race, check this out, I'm trying to, I chased down fifth place because I was in sixth, you know, a lot of the time. So I chased down fifth place. I overtake him. And that dude was an awesome dude. I had some good conversation with him and keep moving. And then, so I'm hunting fourth place, you know, and I come across, you know, and I'm running, I catch up, and then I keep seeing fourth and fifth kind of keeps bouncing. So I know I'm right up close to this guy. So I pass the line, and then they have a TV monitor, you know, fourth, I come through, and I'm showing fourth. Well, I know that last time fifth just hit, so I wasn't sure. So I waited for I took a little break there, just like a little couple minute break, and was kind of waiting. Pretty soon, man, this guy comes across this line, older gentleman, man, crosses the line. So I get up, I go look at the monitor, and sure enough, man, he was in fifth place.
Yeah.
So he was the guy that I was chasing down. So I run up to this guy, and I'm like, hey, man, you Henry? And he's like, yeah, man, I'm Henry. And I was like, dude, I was like, how old are you, man? He's 69 years old, Ryan. 69 and out there just grinding, man. Getting it. Says 69 years old.
Right.
And testing my endurance
Yeah.
For sure he was. And he wasn't gonna let me take it easy, man. He was fighting, dude. He was getting it.
For my personal life, my endurance trials come through work.
Yeah.
I've always worked jobs, mostly in ag, where you work tons of hours, you just grind through it. And even my job right now, I'm not in ag, but I just put my time in. And some of the guys will be like, man, I can't, how do you do this? Like, you know, you get an opportunity to go home, you're still here. You know, today I went in really just because I was bored and I needed something to do. And I was done doing all the things I wanted to do. I did some dishes. I cleaned up the house. I came, did some stuff in the yard. I walked the dogs. You know, I did all my normal daily readings and then some. And finally I was like, man, I got to get out of this headspace. Like, I was kind of starting to go through it a little bit. And my best opportunity is to go help others. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it was interesting to see their eyes light up when I walked in. Made me feel good.
Yeah.
Like, they care.
Right.
As much as they can in the situation they're in. You know, it's a total God thing for me to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that God uses you in your racing. I think it's very important that we do build up our bodies. Because there's going to be times where we have to endure. We might have to sit with someone literally for hours to help pull them through.
Right.
And if you're not, in a physical sense, ready to do those things, how are you going to accomplish that goal?
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's a matter of taking care of, you know, your own personal Trinity.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean? Your body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your mind.
Right.
And then your soul.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% have to be on top of those
Yeah,
things.
all three of those. And if one of those are lacking, then I'd almost assure you one of the other two are lacking as well.
I would say it's like the fruit of the Spirit. And we talked about this, and in fact, we brought it up in Sunday school. I haven't seen a Bible translation one that says fruits of the Spirit in Galatians. It says the fruit of the Spirit is
the
these.
fruit. Yeah.
If it was plural, I think it would say are.
Yeah.
Right? It is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's not many things. It's one thing. So if you're lacking patience, you're lacking love, joy, peace, all those things, self-control.
Yeah. Right.
And I would say the same thing. I don't think you can have more of one in the Trinity without the other.
Right. And then
one God, first off. They're not, you know.
And then I like that. It's that 3 of 7. Give a shout out. I mean, obviously, 3 of 7. I love that brand. He's basically saying what I've thought is basically, you know, your mind, body, and soul. If
Right.
all three of those are aligned, then that actually draws you even closer to the actual, you know, the one true Trinity,
Right.
which would be the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit.
100% agree. When we were doing discipleship 3 years ago, that was our focus.
Yeah.
Not the 3 of 7 deal, which I did join that YouTube channel, by the way.
Yeah, dude. Right.
It took me a while to find it.
Yeah, I just love the 3 of 7, man. Yeah, I love his take on it. Then as you grab, you know, your mind, body, and soul there, you move into that Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Then you move into that what I like to, you hear me saying that infinite, you know, that blissful state, that infinite blissful state. And that's a matter of putting yourself into some spots, you know, endurance training. You know what I mean?
Paul compares our spiritual walk holy, or I don't know. When I say holy, I think people are thinking HOLY, and I'm talking WHOLLY, to a boxer and what they do and different things. And then he compares it to a person running a race. You know what I'm saying? He gives all these analogies for it. And it makes a whole lot more sense today than it ever did in my life. And that goes to God placing people in my life to help explain things to me in weird ways. Like, it's nothing you verbally said. It's watching you and Chase train and practice and, you know, go out, perform, do well, recuperate, train and practice, go out, perform, do well. You know what I'm saying? It's a cycle.
Yeah, and just not letting it get in the way, like other things get in the way. You know what I mean? And staying the course.
That's very important too.
Oh, for sure.
Of course.
Well, that was in that definition there. You know, not letting it get in the way.
So we have to purposely put ourselves in trials.
Yeah.
They're going to come anyways.
And know you're going to take on some hardship, man. It's going to be a struggle.
Be ready for it.
Yeah, you're going to want to stop. You're going to want to quit.
Training alone is not good.
Yeah.
We're meant to be in community.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of bummed my computer didn't work because I was going to look up some scripture on it. And I'm sure we'll talk about this again because that seems to be the habit.
Yeah.
That kind of it all ties together anyhow.
Yeah, for sure.
And so let me see that book right there. I'm going to thumb this real quick. There's some short parts in here. Oh, my goodness. Somewhere.
You know, may we endure until the end. Man, I like that. May we endure until the end. That's scripture.
All right. So we've been closing with a little something that someone else wrote usually. It's people that are way smarter than us. And I kind of like this. We should commit ourselves unceasingly to this one goal, that everything we do be little acts of communion with God. This must be natural and not artificial, coming from the purity and the simplicity of heart. We must do everything thoughtfully and mindfully, without impulsiveness or rashness, which indicate an undisciplined mind. We must go about our daily activities quietly, calmly, and lovingly, asking Him to bless the work of our hands. By keeping our heart and mind fixed on God, we shall bruise the head of the evil one and cast his weapons to the ground.
That's a good one.
Training for endurance.
Yep, I like it.
Ready to close this out, buddy?
Cool, man.
I love you, man.
Love you, Ryan. We'll see you, man.
We'll see you.
See ya.